What prompted me to write the book was I had been having a number of conversations with people within my circle, and a pattern started to emerge when I started to discuss the work that I'm doing and have been doing for the last 15 years. And as those conversations developed, I realized there's a formula that I've adopted that's been able to support the successes that I'm having. And I wanted to just share the information with whoever is in similar situations because when you do this type of work, I always say there is no handbook, there is no playbook for the rapidly changing landscape that is data. So I wanted to share what I've learned over the last 15 years so that others could benefit. I learned a lot. One of the major things that really was highlighted throughout the course of writing this book was that many of the things that we learn are transferable to other industries. And so as I was writing, I started down a path of being very specific, very technical, and focusing on software, like the tools and technologies that I've used throughout my career. And I quickly realized the way in which the industry has evolved and continues to evolve, being that focused on technology wasn't going to enable me to tell the stories that I wanted to tell and convey the messages that I wanted to convey. So I shifted gears a bit and I went to more of a broad approach. And if you read the book, you'll notice that I don't really go into tools and technologies of the current day because by tomorrow you'll look at the book and say, oh, this particular software is no longer in use, or this particular software is no longer being utilized in the way in which he mentioned. So I went away from that and I focused more on the concepts that are going to be important for shaping the proper mindset for leaders in this space to deliver value for the organization. And that is really the focus of this book. The rationale behind focusing on strategies and mindset is those are the things that are going to be carried with you along your journey. You may land in an organization, and this is covered in the book, you may land in an organization that doesn't have your preferred tools of choice. You still have to be able to move in that particular space and add value. So if you're actually in a new organization that has a new set of tools, you want to still be able to run your plays. And so that's the spirit of having a playbook. I'm looking at the landscape of data projects, delivering value within organizations as you are traditionally in a role where you're an individual contributor. This is a book written from the perspective of someone who is guiding leaders who have come from an individual contributor background where they excelled and now have to learn to coach. And I wanted to provide a playbook, a set of systematic steps that they can actually use when they land in an organization. So that being said, I want them to be able to step into any environment, regardless of the tools, regardless of the pressure coming from the board or the executives who are saying, hey, we must do this now. And I want them to have the poise to say, okay, let's look at the landscape. Let's look at the field of play, if you will, and be able to make adjustments so that we can deliver value to the organization. And so what I did is I set the book up in a way that paints the picture and gives you two paths. Either you're in an organization where you have full alignment and support of your executive leadership team, or you're in an organization where you're charting the course of action and you're laying out the way in which your teams will deliver value. Either way, you have many obstacles that over the course of years I've seen that these things play out in similar ways, regardless of the organization, regardless of industry. You're going to be challenged in either one or two ways. You're going to be challenged with resources, or you're going to be challenged with budget. So resources in terms of individuals on your team, that's in the form of full-time employees or contract or consultants. And you may have challenges getting the proper allocation of budget to support your initiatives. Regardless, you have to be able to deliver. So I love the sports analogy because it really outlines how coaches have to work with what's available to them. They may have preferred to have a certain type of player to run a certain type of system. But when you land in an organization that doesn't have those types of players or doesn't have people used to your system, you still have to be able to deliver results. The organization is looking at you as someone who can come in and work in any situation and do that. So focusing on the specific tools that are always evolving and getting better would not position anyone reading this book to be successful 10, 20, 30, 40 years from now. So focusing on the core values that shape a winning mindset was the focus. Yes, one of the things that I think is most critical, the most critical mindset that I see for now and into the future is a mindset shift from delivering one-off solutions to building a product. Now, what do I mean by product? There's a whole chapter dedicated to what I call analytic applications. And I've talked, about these analytic applications for a while, but essentially what I'm saying is leaders must start to think about delivering products, and that will change the way in which they deliver value for the organization. I'll give you an example. In the 90s, early 2000s, it was all about creating reports that landed on an executive's desk with their morning coffee. We carry that type of mindset forward into 2025. And in many organizations, there's a focus around, let me deliver a report. Now, as fast as things are changing in the environment, everything is becoming more digital, things are happening at a rapid pace. By the time that we're talking figuratively, by the time that figurative and sometimes literal report lands on the desk with the morning coffee, things have changed. So you have to be able to provide tools for business leaders that adapt and are able to respond to the rate of change that's happening in the environment. So if you're a data leader working on a project and you're focused on, let me deliver a report, by the time that report lands, the goalposts have shifted, the target has moved. So if you build a product, now you're thinking about how does this product address our concerns now, and how does it evolve to address the concerns of the business into the future. So technology companies, startups that have taken off, and we'll just say in Silicon Valley, because that's very popular, those types of organizations, they are building software. So they have a software development mindset where they're thinking about not just what we're going to deliver now, but what we're going to deliver in future enhancements. So there's a virtuous cycle of evolution that happens because they approach it as, hey, this is the best thing we can deliver now. It addresses the main pain point of the business, and everything else will be features. Everything else will be enhancements. So the one-time delivery and, okay, I've delivered the report, let me step back, that mindset doesn't exist. We're going to deliver something of value to the business now that addresses a need. And as the needs evolve, the system is designed in a way to incorporate new inputs, new ideas, and it continues to grow alongside the business. So data leaders should stop looking at what they do as, hey, I'm supporting one or two KPIs. I want to make sure the business has visibility in terms of what's happening in this particular area at this particular time, and shifting to, I want to be able to support the business and provide tools that support the business over time that outlive me and my role, me in this particular process that I put in place, but are designed to provide a platform of intelligence. So we talk about intelligence platforms at Aurora a lot. And that's essentially the mindset shift. And that's I say my favorite chapter in the book is analytic apps, because it reshapes the thinking around what our job as data leaders is. And it gives focus to what data projects should focus on, which is developing software that the business uses. So moving from reporting or dashboarding or whatever your language of choice is, to, I am responsible for building tools that bring intelligence to bear for our organization that are designed to scale and evolve with the business. Everyone, absolutely. Every individual who operates in the data space should be thinking about, how do I build, we call them analytic apps. Some people call them intelligence systems, a data platform that provides insights, actionable insights to the business, regardless of the language you want to put around it, from the analyst on up to the C-suite, they should be thinking about how does this particular function help us operate more efficiently and unlock more revenue opportunities through the delivery of insights based on our data, third-party data that's brought in to support and enhance what that data can show us, and design systems that provide intelligence so that we operate better. Because a lot of times what happens is you may have an analyst or you may have a leader who sees it and says, I don't want just another set of dashboards, because there's a thing that we talk about often, which is dashboard sprawl. You you bring a new dashboarding tool to the organization, everyone's excited, and you say, we're democratizing data. That sounds great in theory. Everyone now has access to build dashboards on their computer, publish them, and now you just have what turns out in many cases to be a mess. This particular dashboard, which is supposed to be showing, financial reports, has a different number than someone else's, and now you're trying to figure out, okay, which of these is correct. Now you're wasting time, right? And now you have thousands of dashboards for a question that was asked by an executive for just one particular point in time. Hey, can you tell me what happened with this particular region and with this particular product? And you think, okay, dashboard, and you run and build a dashboard. You spend hours building it, sometimes days, hopefully not weeks, and you deliver it. And then they say, okay, thank you. I just really wanted to sit out. You could have just researched it and told them, but now you have a dashboard that's published with 4 different tabs, but all they wanted was that one number, and they just wanted to see it one time because someone asked them a question in a meeting. Now this happens repeatedly, so it's dashboards, 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 and now you have what we call dashboard sprawl. The business isn't more intelligent because of it. The insights that are on those dashboards are oftentimes lost because no one asked for them. So you're building something that no one really asked for, so no one's paying attention to. And so it's all kinds of things happening because we're not, as an industry, taking a set a product mindset. We're not adopting a product led mindset when we come to developing what we deem to be tools of value for the business. So if we start with what does the business need, how is this particular need going to be met, and then how is it going to evolve, then we're thinking about creating a product. Some people call it software development. Many times the language is convoluted because now it's digital transformation, it's modernization. There's a whole lot of words and verbiage that people use to explain this. But to simplify, that's the goal of the book, is to simplify what we're trying to do. We're trying to build tools that move the business forward. So you want to make sure you're engaging with the stakeholders to understand what it is they're trying to do truly, what it is they're actually going to do once it's built, and how is it going to impact how they operate. Because if you don't connect those dots, your team is going to be running around chasing moving targets, whether those are KPIs or a request that doesn't really matter, or any number of things. So the goal is to give leaders who are responsible for delivering data projects a focus to say, yes, you're being asked all these things, but a dashboard isn't the value. The insights from that dashboard that the organization can act upon is the value. So now you have to think about it this way. If I deliver insights, forget the dashboard or the report that you thought was the value. If I deliver insights, what is the business going to do with them? So think of all of the great dashboards and reports that you've produced. And once the business receives them, if nothing happens, there's something wrong with the process, and there's something wrong with the way in which the delivery is happening and the response to the delivery. So you have to see, okay, what's happening here? What's happening is you're delivering insights that may be valuable, but you haven't sense checked whether or not the organization can respond to them. So we always start with, and this is presented in the book, what are the levers that the business can actually adjust based on what you're saying? And if they can't do anything about it, then why are you giving them that information? And if you want them to do something about it, what are you going to do to monitor and track what they have done in response to your insights to create this, what we call ecosystem of information? So you provide insights, the organization acts. Now there's a feedback loop. What happened as a result of that action? And then if you can create that, now you have a platform, a product, an analytic app that now provides insight, it guides action, and you can track whether or not your action that's being taken at the business level is actually a positive response, or is it generating positive results for the business. Leaders who are leading these initiatives have to understand that's what the goal is. The goal isn't to say, hey, I delivered 200 reports. As I heard one leader say, he said, we went from 15 reports. Now that I'm leading, we're delivering over 200 reports a month. And for me, when we were having a conversation, he thought that he was saying something of value. I completely disagree with the thinking. If you went from 15 reports and now you're delivering 200, you're overwhelming the business, and reports don't equal value. And quite frankly, he didn't stay in that role longer. I mean, I look back and he was gone. And so what I say is the way in which we think about these things is very important, especially with this initiative. Not even an initiative. That's not the right word. Especially with the goal of organizations to leverage AI in a meaningful way. No one has even really defined what that looks like, and I'm just going to give it to you simply. Leveraging AI within your business means building software, building products, building platforms, building analytic apps that have these features as a part of the actual delivery that makes your organization operate more intelligently. So think of it as a software enhancement, a feature enhancement. But if you don't have the foundational data in order, you're not going to get the benefit of the icing on the cake, which is the AI capabilities that are powerful, that have great potential, but many organizations won't realize because they're approaching it from I just need to deliver a report mindset. I just need to deliver a dashboard with AI mindset, or I just need to deliver a dashboard with a chatbot mindset. That's not connecting the whole puzzle. It does not directly, no. So, and the reason being is because AI is, like I just said, is a feature. It's an enhancement. It's something that is a great add-on, but the underlying foundation has to be sound in order for you to take advantage of it. That's one of the biggest things that I see right now is everyone's chasing this shiny object. They don't truly understand it, and they haven't done the groundwork that is going to enable AI to do what it's designed to do. So no, I don't focus on AI. I focus on the fundamentals. And as I said, I'm not focused on any technology. These are concepts that are going to allow you to be successful, whether it's AI or there's something in the future. But a note that I wanted to share when it comes to AI, AI is defined as artificial intelligence. And what we're finding through research at Gartner, McKinsey, or whoever, what they're saying is many of these AI initiatives are not being successful. They're saying they're failing. Organizations are wasting a lot of money trying to figure out how to make these things work. And what I thought about was the fact that AI stands for artificial intelligence. The business isn't looking for anything artificial. And it's interesting that that's the way in which it's presented, and there's not a lot of trust in the results being produced, because what the business is actually looking for, and I do talk about this in the book, is not artificial intelligence. They're looking for automated intelligence, not artificial. They want it to be real. They want it to be grounded in truth. They want it to be reliable. They want it to be predictable. They want it to really guide intelligent thinking and action. So if we think about it, automation is really what you want. You really want an organization that has boiled the ocean of what they have internally in terms of tribal knowledge, what they know about their industry, and they have that resource within all of the people in their organization. If they cultivate that and they bring that to bear for the organization and say, okay, here are the sources of truth around what we see in our data, then we can automate the intelligence around it, and then it becomes more reliable. So what happens when people run after AI without making sure their data state is in order is they start to create artificial intelligence, things that are not reliable based on what the leaders understand. So when they see the results, they doubt them. Okay, well, this forecast is saying that we're going to have, triple digit sales growth next year. That's artificial. That there's no way that's the case. And then the leaders who have brought, this is just me making up an example, have brought this artificial intelligence to the organization. Now they're losing credibility, they're being doubted, and they're being questioned the whole way. Versus saying, okay, let's look at what the organization does understand. They understand these are our sales for the last 3 years. Okay, how did we arrive at this particular forecast? Let's make sure that the assumptions are fully baked and we actually build a forecast that's trusted, that's reliable, and then we automate the process for building that. So automated intelligence, and then we monitor it because what we see a lot of times is there's a human in the loop component of AI, and what that means is as you roll out these capabilities, you want a human to sense check what's being delivered to make sure that it is sensible and that it will be trusted from the organization. And you understand if it differs from what the expectation is, you can explain it. So AI is not the focus. The focus is making sure the data foundation is solid, that you're automating tried and true, trusted approaches, and that you're delivering on the value to their business. That product led mindset will help to address many of those issues within organizations. And it's sometimes it's not necessarily an issue in a bad way, it's just a natural development. Some organizations we work with are vertically integrated by design, they want to keep certain things separate, and that's fine. But what happens is, in order to derive insights for how the business overall is operating, you do need to connect the dots across silos. So we instead of saying breaking down silos because that has a negative connotation, we say unifying organizations across silos. So what that means is I want the sales team understanding how what they're doing connects to the marketing team's efforts. So what I want them to understand is that I want the marketing team to understand that the sales team's commission is based on an agreement and understanding from HR. So we want to understand the HR data connected to the sales data, connected to marketing, connected to finance. So all of these silos need to be connected, especially from a data perspective, because all of these things will guide an organization to be able to operate more efficiently. What do I mean by that? Because that seems general. Someone might say, hey, make it make sense. Okay, if I'm HR, I want to make sure I hire the best talent and I want to make sure I'm retaining them. And retention is very important because it costs money to hire people. So if I see that I've hired 5 sales associates and some of them are doing well based on their performance on the sales side, they've closed this number of deals, and a couple of them are not doing so well. Now I could actually start to predict whether or not these particular employees will be retained or if we're going to lose them and have to start all over trying to replace them. So that's connected. Now you say, okay, well, what's enabling these particular sales associates to be very successful, sales reps to be successful? Now you connect it and say, oh, well, marketing, and in the case of pharma, since we're in pharma, in the case of marketing, marketing is doing a lot of work to support the drugs that these successful sales reps are actually doing, are actually selling. Whereas these 2 sales reps that are actually doing not as well, these drugs that they're tasked with selling are not being marketed as heavily, or the response from the marketing campaigns is lagging some of the other particular products that this particular organization sells or company sells. So now let's make an adjustment within marketing because now we're connecting the dots and we don't want to lose these sales reps. We want to support them from an organizational standpoint. So we ramp up the marketing. And now we see revenue increasing because now these particular sales reps that were struggling are now doing better. And now finance is seeing a lift when it comes to revenue and profitability, et cetera. So all of these things have to be unified in order for the organization to have a true picture of what's happening within their organization. What happens though is not that, because the leader over Data Project says finance just wants to know how much revenue we made last month. Or in sales, they want to say, did this particular person hit their target? Yes or no. And marketing wants to understand, hey, how many impressions have we had, right? So all of these things are disconnected. They're all presenting reports or dashboards that show data or show insights, but they haven't connected it. So you don't have a full picture of how your organization is operating. What we present is an approach that changes that to say we're building a product for the business, not for a particular stakeholder. This stakeholder has an ask, but that ask is connected to an entire business and how a business operates. So I talk about that in the book. So as a data leader, your job is not to just deliver insights for one particular persona, is to actually deliver value for the organization. So you get a request from one group, you have to have a product-led approach to say, okay, well, that's one particular department. What do they connect to? Can we get other people in the room to understand what are the different connective tissues that bring this organization together so that it helps to address this particular need that was brought to bear from this one persona, but it connects to these other personas. And the more we do that within projects, the more the business will evolve and grow and progress. So yeah, to answer your question, there is an entire chapter dedicated to communicating out the value, because data storytelling goes beyond dashboards. What you're really talking about is, how do I convey the information to leaders in a way that they understand why it's valuable? And so that is addressed in the book. And ironically enough, there was an individual I spoke to who was actually a project manager, and he read the book and he said, "This is helping me in my role as a project manager." So it's data projects, like it's focused on strategies there, but the concepts, they are broad, and they address whether or not you're an analyst, how you see your role, especially if you're an analyst who's looking to grow and develop, the importance of your role. And it also addresses those who may be at higher levels of the organization, because at the end of the day, regardless of what role you're in, being able to convey the value that you bring and being able to connect the dots between the work you do to the overall organization is essential. And what happens is, analysts, they look at their job as, all I'm responsible for doing is X. And that may be reporting, or creating PowerPoint slides, or helping the organization figure out where data sources are and documentation, etc. Those are task-oriented responsibilities. That doesn't connect with what your value is to the organization. So once again, it's a mindset, and it's learning how to communicate value. That's something that is universal. It's not tied to a specific level in the organization. It's everyone. Whether you're in an interview, you need to be able to articulate more than, I was able to do a VLOOKUP, or I was able to write a SQL query, or I was able to do Python scripting. That is a task. But what you've done, you have to be able to communicate more clearly to the business, to those leaders who you're speaking with. And that is absolutely covered in the book. That's funny that you asked, what do I see into the future? What do if I could see the future, and sometimes I do, I just feel like when you just follow the trends and see where organizations are going, I think the biggest thing that we're going to see from organizations is the ones who figure out that they're trying to build systems that evolve. And think about it this way, and we have many things we can pull from, but the number one thing I'll say is this: non-tech companies don't typically think about building systems that evolve, or software, because software is designed to evolve. Think about your favorite software. I'm not going to name drop any software. Your favorite application. There's a whole business built behind that particular app. And what happens is, people think, oh, the app is built and my job is done. No, your job just begins, because from that app, there are so many branches that come off of that. So the organizations that are non-tech, meaning they're not operating in Silicon Valley, they're not thinking about, hey, we have a whole software developer team. Those are going to be the organizations that need to shift into that mindset. And the ones that do are going to be the ones who outpace the others. That's me, without going into, like, I see this particular thing happening. I will say this, because this has been in the common discourse for a while, that AI is going to replace jobs, and AI is going to take away the responsibility of us doing anything. And we're going to just sit around twiddling our thumbs, waiting, for the computers to figure it out. I don't think that's coming. There's something that, without being really philosophical, that's not coming, not the way that people envision. So I will look into the future and say that, and I'll leave it at that. That's such a great question. It means a lot. I wish I had this book years ago. And I think to be able to present this book to the world so that others who are coming behind me or those who are in the space looking for answers can benefit from my learnings, it means a lot. And I say that not just from a personal standpoint, but relationships I've built with leaders, executives across industries. I've had conversations with them about challenges that they face working with their executive leadership team or others who are maybe colleagues, et cetera, trying to figure out how to bridge the gap between what their partners or their colleagues are trying to deliver and what they're trying to deliver and figuring out how to work through those challenges. I really wanted to distill the complexity down to the simplest terms. So if you read the book, you'll recognize that the focus of the book isn't about celebrating my victories over the years or focusing on the challenges that I've directly faced and getting into the weeds of those. It's more about how do you avoid some of those pitfalls to make it a smoother journey. It's already going to be challenging enough, but if I can alleviate some of the unnecessary burden, then that's the goal. Because I've the gray hairs, I've earned them, all of them. So those people who I've talked to, mentored over the years, they've been able to sidestep many of those challenges. And that's really the purpose of the book, is to say, hey, you don't have to learn the hard way. Here's tried and proven methods to actually deliver value, strategies to be successful. And as you encounter these challenges, you'll know how to navigate, because the challenges will be there, but you now have a playbook for how to maneuver. And that's the goal. So when I thought about the book, I said I really want to give anyone who's looking to advance, it doesn't matter if you're in data, anyone who's looking to advance in any industry, the tools that they need to actually make that successful leap. And what I thought about is, who has a playbook? And what is a playbook? That's why it's called a playbook. A playbook doesn't have to be complex. There's a friend of mine who coaches high school football, and he said, all I really have is two plays. He was like, it's just the way in which we execute those two plays that makes us successful. And he's had winning seasons for a long time. And I thought about that, and I said, that's really what it's about, because every engagement I've been on, it's been the same set of questions, it's been the same methodology, and I've been able to bring results across industries, whether it's consumer packaged goods, whether it's financial services, whether it's pharmaceuticals, whether it's healthcare, whether it's home building, whether it's restaurants. The same set of tools apply. So the same playbook that I've been running with, that I've developed through my own, challenges and roller coaster ride of discovering different approaches, I realized I have something. I want to share it with those who are looking so that they can benefit as well. That was the sole purpose of delivering this product, to writing the book and making sure that it could be in the hands of those who are looking to advance. What I want people to take away from the book is that the keys to success are simple. That's the number one thing I want people to take away. The tools to success are easy. The discipline to apply them is hard. And that's really why I wanted to write this book. This is why I wanted to make sure that this information was available, because the strategies are important. And if you think about it, every team in any sport that you may love, that that you watch on the regular or that you support, they all have plays, they all have a playbook, but you see everyone it doesn't have the same level of success. So it's not the playbook in and of itself that will enable you to have ultimate success. It's how you apply it, the type of discipline that you exercise, and how thorough you are in your preparation. So what the focus is shaping the mindset that will allow you to be successful. And to your point earlier, I wanted to add another note. I have always been the type of person who wants to see people succeed. I want to make sure that the information is in the hands of those who are looking. That's the goal. So many times leaders, individuals who succeed, they don't always readily share the simple things that others can do to follow in their footsteps to have similar success. So that's the goal of the book. The book is really written to say, hey, here are the secrets to being successful. Here are the secrets to success. That's what I meant to say. here are the secrets to success, and they're plain, they're readily available to you, and you can follow them without understanding any of the tools or technologies. But if you understand these strategies outlined in the playbook, you will grasp any of the tools and technologies that come now or in the future. You can find it on Amazon.com under the new Data Project Playbook by Nasheed Sabree. And let me know what you think. Add a review, write a note, find me on LinkedIn, and definitely engage in discussion around the book and the strategies that are presented.